Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're stepping completely away from the daily grind and immersing ourselves in a brief but honestly incredibly profound text. We're looking at a 2012 piece by an author named Feng, and it's simply titled Spiritual Communion. Now, what we're doing today is taking a highly abstract, almost mystical concept, and we're going to map it out step by step. We are going to unpack exactly what happens when human connection transcends our ordinary, everyday physical world. It's a meditative, beautifully focused piece of writing, and by breaking it down, we can really grasp the journey of transcendence that it describes. So clear your mind, focus in, and let's explore this incredible text together.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever locked eyes with someone across a crowded room, or maybe shared just a subtle expression with a close friend, and suddenly felt like the rest of the world just completely dropped away? You know that feeling where a fraction of a second literally feels like an eternity, and you understand exactly what the other person is feeling without a single word being spoken? I mean, we've all had fleeting moments of this in our everyday lives. Well, Feng's text takes this highly relatable, universally human experience and asks a pretty mind-bending question. What happens if that fleeting moment doesn't end, but actually becomes a permanent state of existence? Before we really embark on this escalating spiritual journey, we need to establish a clear baseline. The entire text revolves around this core definition: spiritual communion. Fundamentally, it's defined as a profound state achieved when hearts are in tune. And when this alignment happens, it acts as a massive catalyst. It doesn't just change how you feel inside. According to the text, it transforms the entire external world around you into a serene, pure, and unhindered realm of indescribable joy. It's a complete top-to-bottom paradigm shift.
That brings us to Section 1, the initial spark, the absolute catalyst of connection. And this brilliantly illustrates how a massive, universe-altering connection doesn't actually start with thunder and lightning. It starts with something deeply mundane: a single glance, a tiny gesture, a subtle movement, or even just one word. Because of that tiny action, hearts harmonize, we become perfectly in tune. And then, bam, that tiny spark opens a door that the text describes as beautiful and infinite as poetry and painting. It's this rapid, cascading sequence where a tiny physical action instantly unlocks a boundless metaphysical door. I actually want to pause on this concept of hearts being in tune, because the original Chinese text uses an absolutely remarkable idiom right here: Xin You Ling Shi. It translates loosely to hearts in tune, but the literal translation is so fascinating. It references an ancient myth about a magical rhinoceros horn that possessed a white line running straight from its base all the way to its tip. And because of this unblocked channel, people believe the horn could telepathically transmit emotions and thoughts. So when the text says hearts are in tune, it's invoking this beautiful ancient image of a clear, unblocked, almost telepathic channel suddenly opening up between two souls.
Let's move into Section 2, a world without barriers. The unbound environment.
So, Feng uses some incredibly specific sensory imagery here. Flower gardens under moonlight, by the streams, on the hills, in the valleys, inside the caves. The author is basically taking us on a grand tour of nature. But listen, these aren't just pretty background settings. The text acts as a decoder here, explaining that because the hearts are in tune, these physical locations are completely transformed. They become places where, as the text says, the heart blooms with wonder everywhere. Everything in these environments suddenly becomes serene, pleasant, pure, and warm. It's like the internal connection takes a paintbrush and completely coats the external world in total contentment.
But it's not just about what is beautifully present in these environments. It's equally about what is explicitly absent. In this state of spiritual communion, there are absolutely no obstacles, no barriers, zero worries, and no restraints. The mind's newfound ease literally projects outward. You are completely free to follow your heart and freely display your grace. The physical world has lost all of its rough edges, leaving behind just this untainted, perfect peace.
Now for Section 3, the alchemy of union, merging beyond physical reality.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the direct, powerful contrast it sets up. We have immense physical obstacles. We're talking the ends of the earth, towering mountains, vast waters, dense fog, pitted directly against the internal reality of spiritual communion, which is a bond as close as glue, intertwined souls, absolutely no hesitation, and zero grievances. The text makes a really bold argument here. Spiritual communion effortlessly overpowers physical geography. It seriously doesn't matter how high the mountains are or how vast the oceans get. The internal reality renders those physical obstacles completely irrelevant.
And because those physical boundaries are gone, the energy of the connection just erupts. The author violently shifts away from those tranquil streams and moonlit gardens we saw earlier, straight into chaotic, powerful sensory metaphors, stating they can instantly merge into a roaring fire and stir up tumultuous waves. The piece we talked about isn't passive at all. It contains the capacity for massive, dynamic energy. It's basically alchemy, where two souls combine to create sheer elemental forces.
And this dynamic energy builds to its logical peak. The text describes this state as savoring the wonderful realms where yin and yang meet. It's the ultimate, intimate union of opposing forces finding perfect balance. It's described as heaven and earth connecting, a state that allows those in communion to fully experience the swirling clouds and shifting rains. It is an active, deeply passionate embrace of the flow of life, leaving them completely carefree and at absolute ease even within the storm of existence.
Let's move to section 4 and see how this builds into transcending space and time, the actual dissolution of reality.
So here, we've reached the absolute dissolution of the world as we know it. Let's look at this. In our ordinary reality, space defines our physical boundaries, right? But in spiritual communion, the text states explicitly that space disappears entirely. Ordinarily, time moves continuously forward, tracking our lives. But here, time ceases to exist. And ordinarily, our focus is tied down to our heavy physical bodies. But in this ultimate state, only the spirit shines, the soul drifts. The physical world doesn't just fade into the background, it fundamentally falls away, leaving nothing but pure consciousness.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, the ultimate bliss. Endless, boundless, and infinite.
So the crucial point is just how all-encompassing this final state truly is. Because the physical body has been transcended, this bliss overcomes even our most basic biological programming. It is completely free from thirst and hunger. It exists without any weariness or fatigue. The heart is utterly unattached and unobstructed. It arrives at a place of joy that is, quite literally, beyond the capacity of human language to even describe. And the author concludes with this simple, incredibly firm declaration, 这就是心灵神交. This is spiritual communion. This destination, this unattached, perfectly joyous, timeless, spaceless state is the complete and total realization of the journey we've just unpacked today. It is the ultimate evolution of that single fleeting glance we talked about at the very beginning. Which leaves us with this final thought. We've walked through a highly mystical, deeply poetic framework of transcendence today. But the real challenge? Bringing it back down to reality. How can you cultivate even a fraction of this unattached, unobstructed joy in your deeply modern, highly distracted life? Think about it. The next time you share a quiet glance with someone you care about, remember the infinite door that Xiufeng says is waiting right there, just waiting to be opened. Thank you so much for focusing in with me on this explainer today, and hey, keep seeking those moments of true connection.